Free.
Do you want exposure for your business or organization? Check out Digital Network Advertising. Digital Network Advertising is where businesses display your ad inside their building. You can choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your slide holds the virtual billboard for 14 seconds and is displayed 3 times an hour. It's a novel way to be seen, be discovered, and to be remembered. Digital Network Advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call 909-222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Wake Up Show. Each week, we explore and take a deep dive into awakening the financial abundance we all have inside of us. We educate and create awareness by focusing on fundamental principles of money, talking to business and community leaders about successful habits, while learning from each other how to build, protect, and create legacies. And now, here's your host, Daniel Choi.
Good morning. It's a new day, and with each day comes a new beginning and a new chance to do something great, learn something new, and enjoy everything this great life has to offer. If you haven't already done so, go to iTunes or Google Play, subscribe to the podcast. I do want to give a special shout out to my listeners in Vietnam. I don't know who you are, but I see there's a pocket of people listening and subscribing to the podcast there. So I appreciate your listenership very much. You can download all of our shows there. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube. It's all under the Financial Wake Up Show with Daniel Choi. Broadcasting live again on KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM. I combine integrity with intelligence to wake you up to things you want to be doing financially. Check out our website, financialwakeupshow.com, or check us out on Facebook and Twitter. That's at TFWS. If you have any doubt, just reach out. And on every show, we talk about 3 things. First, growing and protecting your wealth. Second, exit planning, which is selling or transferring your business if you're a business owner, or retirement if you're an employee, and of course, estate planning. Lastly, which is creating a legacy while fully enjoying your money while you're alive. So last week on the show, I talked about President Trump's new financial legislation changes and how it could affect you. And one of the big areas I touched on was fees, and I didn't really get a chance to talk too much about those. One of the things that was rolled back, by President Trump was legislation that was intended to make fees more clear to you, more transparent to you, and as far as how they're charged, creating a more customer or client-friendly fee schedule, or at least one that was justifiable. Well, you know, there's no non-profit financial companies out there. There's no non-profit banks. So in exchange for investing your money, you do have to pay a reasonable fee, and it can be a good exchange for services that you get. But a 1% difference in your annual fees can make a huge difference. So today's Wake Up Now segment is, how do investment companies and advisors charge fees, and what am I paying right now? Everything, by the way, from a compensation standpoint in the financial services industry is regulated by the federal government. There are certain rules that we have to follow. Now, even within those regulations, though, there are higher and lower cost ranges. And when do you pay higher costs? Typically because you're getting more features or quote unquote better advice. And I'm going to talk about what better advice is later on, or even if that really exists. But in summary, within the government regulations, you can still end up paying more than you need to or should for products that may not generate a better result for you. So let me illustrate real quickly. Let's say you had $12,000 that you were able to save a year. That's $1,000 a month. And you start putting that into an investment for retirement. And you start doing this, let's say at age 30, because that's when you start making money. And you retire at 65. So you work for 35 years. You save $1,000 a month for 35 years. And let's say over those 35 years, you earn a roughly a 5% rate of return before fees, okay? And that's a pretty conservative estimate considering that over a 30-year period, the markets have generally returned over 8% in 30-year periods of time, okay? So let's say you just earn 5%. In scenario A, I'm going to assume you pay a 1% fee. And in scenario B, let's say you're paying 2% fees. Do you want to guess the difference over those 35 years in how much you ended up paying? I can't hear your guess, obviously, because I'm on the air. You're not, but I will tell you that it's a $158,000 difference. I'll repeat that. $158,000 of difference for a 1% change in your fees. And at retirement, think about it. You're 65. That's a down payment on a vacation house. That could be buying a nice car for you and your spouse. That could be a lot of a college education you end up funding, or maybe something you give to a grandchild at that point. So I really want to wake you up to things, to the fees you're paying over time. So let me start with the most basic way that people pay for investing, which is buying and selling stocks and bonds. Now, typically, you don't have annual fees with stocks and bonds because you're buying shares in either a company or into some sort of debt. But you do have trading costs, okay? Every time you buy and sell, you pay a cost. Also, you could pay maintenance fees in your accounts, and these are like quarterly or annual fees that banks and investment firms charge you for printing statements and, et cetera, et cetera. Many of these fees can be waived if you have a large balance. But you have to consider that even though these can be cost-effective ways to invest, individual stocks and bonds carry a tremendous amount of risk. And if you don't know what you're doing, you might pay less on fees over time, but picking stocks and bonds without understanding things like modern portfolio theory or standard deviation or building a portfolio from a fundamentally sound standpoint, quantitative modeling, if you don't know these things, you might as well go to Vegas. Because picking stocks or bonds based on a tip or someone telling you on a TV show what to buy or sell, and you don't have the backdrop of a diversified portfolio, I'm telling you, you're brewing up a recipe for trouble, okay? And you might ask, well, why is that? Well, let's take 100,000, okay? And let's say you buy a stock, your favorite company, Apple, okay? And Apple has some big manufacturing controversy, some big issue comes around, and Apple shares, the price goes to zero. Now, what happens to your 100,000? It is gone. It is irrevocably lost. So what if instead of taking 100,000 and just buying Apple, you also bought things like Microsoft, Home Depot, Citigroup, American Express, Nike, Johnson & Johnson, Amazon. You buy some stuff in the United States, you buy some stocks internationally, you buy some bonds, you buy some real estate. You get the point. That's diversification, right? You're not just in one investment bearing all the risk on your shoulders. So why doesn't everybody do that? Why don't we just mix it up, right? And here's why. Because 3 reasons. Number one, we don't have the time to do that. I mean, there are people that do this 10, 12 hours a day. We can't work our regular jobs and do that. Time is one. Number two, knowledge and expertise. What would we buy? What would we sell? When would we buy? When would we sell? What's the right mix? That's the second reason. And third, we don't have enough cash. So with $100,000, how much could you really diversify? You can't really diversify a whole lot because each group of investments is going to cost you money. But if I took your $100,000 and my $100,000 and we took a whole bunch of people's $100,000 and we had $100 million, now we could diversify really, really well. So people, what do? We hire money managers to do that. And there's many different ways to do this. The most common one is called a mutual fund. If an investment portfolio, think of it as a combination pizza. Okay, it's a pizza with all these different toppings. One slice of that diversified bunch of toppings or investments is a mutual fund share. Mutual funds are managed by mutual fund managers who have the time, who have the knowledge, who have teams of people, and they have our money in order to diversify correctly. And just like pizzas have different flavors, like meat pizzas and veggie pizzas and that sort of thing, so do mutual funds. Mutual funds have like things that are only invested in bonds or only invested in technology or only invested in the United States or maybe real estate. Fund managers control this. And these mutual funds exist everywhere. They exist in your 401ks, your IRAs, your Roth IRAs, your 529 plans, you name it. Somebody's managing this money, and you need to know how you're paying for these types of things. And if you mix up different flavors of these pizzas, these different mixes of asset classes, you can achieve a tremendous amount of diversification, even with a small amount of assets. And these fund managers, they work for different mutual fund companies. And these companies, I liken them to your favorite sports team. Okay, they have a roster of different managers that are all playing for them, making these investment decisions. Now, what does diversification essentially do? It's simple. It reduces your risk and creates the same return. In other words, you get the same return with less stress and less potential for loss. So how do you pay for these mutual funds? Well, there's two main costs you have to be aware of: loads and 12b-1 fees. 12b-1 fees are annual fees that pay for things like advertising, management, maintenance costs. You can also pay administrative costs in the brokerage accounts that hold these. Those are 12b-1 fees. And loads are upfront costs, okay? So there are two main ways you pick. An A share of a mutual fund has an upfront cost. Typically, it's around 5 to 5.75% upfront. However, the 12b-1 fees, the annual fees, are lower on A shares, whereas C shares, which is the second way you pay for these, there's no upfront cost. You don't pay anything. However, every year you pay a higher 12b-1 fee. So how do you pick? Well, the federal government's made it really easy for both advisors and you, the client, to figure this out. You go to finra.org/fund analyzer. That's finra.org/fund analyzer. And you can enter the ticker symbol of whatever investment you're trying to figure out and how long you're going to hold it. And it'll tell you what's the better way to pay for them. What's the more cost-effective way? And in general, if you're going to hold something for longer than 7 years, you go to the A share. Why? Because you pay the bigger load up front on a smaller amount of money. And then over time, as your portfolio is growing, you're paying less. If you go with a C share and you hold it for a long period of time, you can end up paying a lot more than you would have if you just paid the load up front. So be careful of this thing called no-load funds. No-load funds, yes, there's no load, but they're not, again, doing this for free. So many times the 12b-1 fees can be higher over time, and you can end up paying more than you would have if you just paid the load up front. So you got to be careful. Now, the second thing that has kind of evolved out of this is called the ETF, or the Exchange Traded Fund. Now, what is this? It's a mutual fund that trades like a stock. So there are no loads, but you do pay trading costs. Remember, I started by talking about stocks. They do have management and admin fees, but they're only limited to those, so the annual costs can be low as well. However, remember, there are three reasons why people don't do this. They don't diversify because we don't have time, we don't have the expertise, and we don't have enough cash. And those are reasons that you have an advisor help you. So if you do ETFs on your own, you now have to spend a lot of time and learn the expertise. Because although you're saving money in the annual fees, you have to figure out what to trade. It's almost the same problem you have with buying an individual stock or bond. The only difference is now you can go into a fund. Okay, reading a few articles of what is the best thing to invest in, I can tell you that's also a recipe for disaster, a commonly known thing. The top mutual funds of the year 2000, that was, 17 years ago, over 90% of them don't exist anymore. So if you followed that advice, it's almost for certain you'd have to have changed whatever you did based on reading the magazine articles from Smart Money or Money Magazine or those types of things. So then let's say you say, okay, I need to pay an advisor to help because I don't have the time. I don't even want to do all this stuff. One option there is called a managed money account. This is where you can buy ETFs and institutionally managed portfolios for lower fees. Now, what are institutionally managed accounts? They are huge pools of money managed by computers and people for institutions, big companies, pension funds, retirement plans. It's huge. And then they're packaged for you, the business owner or the individual family, on like a retail basis. So you're getting industrial strength. This is my analogy. You're getting industrial strength detergent, packaged for the home. So if you do that, that sounds great. But of course, now you have to pay the advisor because the advisor is spending time and expertise to help you. And so they tack on an additional cost. an additional fee, and that's where the fee has a range. Federal law permits only for someone to charge you between 0 and 2% annually. Well, remember how much a 1% difference makes. So what are you paying your advisor to do this? Is it 0.5% or is it 1.5%? You've got to know. Another spin-off of this is called a wrap product. A wrap account is similar to a managed money account, except instead of paying trading costs, you pay an annual fee for those. Okay, so now that you've removed the trading costs, what federal regulation says is, okay, well, you better trade a lot to justify a fee. And just because you trade a lot doesn't mean you're doing, if your advisor is an active trader, it could actually mean they're doing something that may not be beneficial for you, such as churning or chasing returns or market timing. Some of these are very ineffective and sometimes illegal. So just because you trade a lot doesn't mean a lot. Lastly, I want to touch really quickly on is 401ks. You are paying fees in your 401k. You have to be aware of that. You get a website that you log into, that costs money. You have customer service reps at 1-800 numbers you can call anytime. You have to be aware of that. There are pre-selected funds that are supposedly very lucrative or better performing than normal funds. Those selected funds have a cost. You have the opportunity to rebalance and trade the money in there. Is any of this free? No. No, many times 401ks can cost anywhere from 2 to 3% annually, which is expensive in the world of investments. And one of the reasons you don't see this is because everything in the 401k world and the mutual fund world, by the way, is printed at net asset value, or NAV. NAV shows on your statement your balance after fees, not before fees. So you can't think 401ks necessarily you're not paying anything. You are paying for them. In fact, the worst thing to do is have an old 401k sitting around at an old company. You're doing nothing with it. It's just sitting there, and you're not even using the things, the services that come with the fees. Okay? Last thing before we go to break, I want to talk quickly about annuities, because I mentioned this last week as well. There are more regulations around annuities. They can be very powerful. They generally have higher costs, but you're paying now for features. For example, some annuities provide guaranteed income in retirement, guaranteed against a loss of principal, which is powerful. Some of them have a death benefit transfer option, which creates a tax advantage. They can be used for estate planning. You are paying for those fees. So that, in more clear sense, is you understand what you're paying for. So the be aware or beware tip of the week is this. Be aware of the fees you're paying. It can make a huge difference. I've already illustrated. Be aware that you're paying for 3 things: quality of advice, service, and results. And are you paying too much? What is your advisor doing for you? Are they being proactive? Are they talking to you? Or are they just letting it sit there and you're just paying the fees for no reason? Are you losing money to fees that could be avoided? And understand that fees are important, and they can be a very fair and reasonable compensation for working with an advisor you like. But if not, beware. You could lose a lot of the cold, hard cash you are saving. You got to wake up to this and be aware. Okay? So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'm going to welcome our first guest to the show. The phone lines are open. If you're curious about what are you paying on your investments, give us a call, 888-909-1050. We'll take your questions right over the air. You're listening to the Financial Wake Up Show with Daniel Choi, KCA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
Now, here's a new concept: digital network advertising, where businesses display your ad inside their building. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, your company is going to thrive with digital network advertising. Choose your marketing sites or jump on the DNA system and advertise with all participants. Your business ad or logo is rotated multiple times an hour inside local businesses where people will discover your company. Digital network advertising, DNA, a novel way to be seen and remembered. Digital network advertising with networks in Redlands and Yucaipa. Call in the 909 area 222-9293 for introductory pricing. That's 909-222-9293 for Digital Network Advertising. One last time, Digital Network Advertising, 909-222-9293.
Okay, and welcome back. After that word from our sponsors, I have the pleasure of introducing a guest to the show that's going to talk about something that I don't think it's enough attention. And after learning about more of this, I really think it's something that you as the listeners should understand. Real estate and businesses, those are the two very big topics I talk about on the show. And escrow is a piece of that process where we just kind of sweep it under the rug. We don't really talk too much about it. And so my guest this week is Janine Brown, who's been in the real estate industry for 20 years. She has founded 3 companies. She's a forensic accountant. She's got a master's in accountancy with an emphasis on auditing and internal controls. She's a published author. She's been certified in escrow education. She teaches on the board level, including AAR, WSGAR, and CVAR. I was able to go to one of her events just this past week and see some of the education that was going on. But it's a topic I really want to bring some light to. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Janine this morning. Janine, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come on this morning. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's start with home transactions, real estate transactions, and then we'll talk about business in a bit. But home transactions, many of us buy a home, and there's a lot of steps. And one of the most important ones is this thing called escrow. And I think in general we know what escrow is, but what is the importance of that period of time during the purchase or sale of real estate?
Well, the one thing I want to what I want to say first is a lot of people actually don't know what we do in escrow. They don't even know what escrow is. All they know is that in the state of California, you open escrow, you give money, and then these people are doing things behind the scenes, and they have no idea what it is. So I want to touch upon that first.
Okay.
Basically, what escrow is a neutral party. So our clients are the buyers and the sellers, which are called the principals during the transaction. And we're responsible for coordinating the majority of it is funds, but also important documents. And we work by instructions, typically by a professional real estate agent or an attorney or whoever's the professional during the transaction. That's the most important thing I want to say first, because a lot of people just don't understand it. So that's the first step. They give us their money and they have no idea what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're just writing the check. They know it's part of the transaction. It's part of the contract document. And then they're opening escrow.
Right.
The first thing that they need to understand is what we're doing with their money. Because basically we're a financial institution. We have, millions of dollars a day that we're dealing with in money for other parties to make sure the transaction goes through smoothly. So the first thing you want to know is who your escrow that you're doing business with is. Now, typically that is recommended through a real estate professional. If you're doing it, selling a property on your own, whether it's a residential or a business transaction, then you usually seek out whoever the local escrow company is, and they can help you with the transaction. So that's the first thing. What was the other part of your question here?
Well, I think you covered it during that answer, which was what's the importance of it. And so, one thing I found interesting in talking to you is understanding that we actually have a choice around the escrow company and the people that they put in charge for this important transaction. Can you explain the choices we do have around the escrow company and the people that are in place for this?
Of course. So around October 2015, something called TRID was implemented. And I don't want to go into what that is specifically. I can give more information to your listeners because it would be forever that we would be talking about that. But it's important to know that that was implemented. In layman's terms, basically all it was is it's a disclosure that breaks down fees, hopefully in a better way, so that the borrower can know what kind of fees that are associated with during the transaction. But as a seller, you want to know as well. Again, typically, a real estate professional will recommend escrow, title, natural disclosure, or natural hazard disclosure, which is NHD, home warranty, all of that kind of stuff. But what they need to know is you actually have a choice. You don't necessarily have to go with what your professional is telling you. Well, they've done their homework, so most of the time they've got somebody that's probably trustworthy. But you want to actually meet who you're doing the transaction with, because escrow and title are not responsible for items that are on the preliminary report that's taken when you're actually, somebody's purchasing a property to see if there's any liens or any other encumbrances or encroachments, anything like that would be privy to the transaction not going through. So the most important thing is you actually know who you're doing business with, and you have a choice. You do not necessarily have to go with whoever your real estate agent or your attorney is recommending. You do have a choice to be able to choose for title, of course, your regular home insurance, which is pretty typical. People usually choose that on their own anyway, but also for escrow. And it's important that people actually know who they're doing escrow with, because a lot of fraud tends to happen. A lot of emails are getting hacked into, a lot of cyber attacks, and they're sending money to people that they have no idea who they are. And that can become a liability, and people are losing their homes.
Wow. That's I've heard a lot about that. Maybe I should do a show on this security identity theft thing that a lot of people have been talking about. Let's talk about the business owner.
Actually, I was just at an escrow meeting, and the FBI was there. I'd never seen the FBI come out to one of these meetings, and it's becoming such a problem. They're now coming out and teaching escrow how to eliminate some of these issues.
Wow. Yeah, if the FBI is coming in and getting involved, it must be growing in scale. A lot of our listeners are business owners. That is one of the big topics we talk about. During the exit plan for a business, obviously the sale or transfer of business to a new owner, escrow's got to be used. So what's the use of and role of escrow in the sale of a business?
So you're really supposed to go through escrow, but I don't know whether a lot of people know. Sometimes people don't use escrow when they're selling their business, which can be actually a liability in itself. You want to make sure, even if someone's just buying a new business or they're selling their assets or whatever they're doing, that they go through escrow. Because what can happen is there going to be outstanding loans that they don't know about. There are going to be all sorts of liabilities that the other person has on that business. And if you don't go through escrow, you can be liable for those from the other person. So you actually want to make sure you go through escrow when you're completing a business transaction. We see it a lot. They're just buying a small business and they're just doing a contract, and that's it. That's what it entails. Right. Writing the check, and they don't even see escrow. So definitely use it. Talk to your escrow representative about what you need to make sure that transaction goes smoothly. Every business is different, so it's in every file is different. So it's just going to depend on the actual business transaction, and that's where we come in, and you want to utilize your vendors. Right.
I mean, you don't want to inherit a tax lien or some sort of loan that you weren't aware of and the seller didn't tell you. Those are bad things.
Exactly.
What are some common issues that you mentioned a couple, but what are some common things that buyers and sellers run into during escrow, particularly when you don't have a good escrow company on your side?
Well, continuing education is really important for me. As you saw the other night, we have investor education meetups, we have escrow education, continuing education seminars. The reason that we do this is we do it for homeowners, we do it for investors, and we do it for real estate agents, so they have a good foundation when they're actually going out there and conducting business. Because a lot of times they don't realize what they could be doing to prevent it. So, for instance, your real estate agent, if you have a real estate agent, the one thing that we see that's really big that ends up making sure that the transaction doesn't go through is for HOA. HOAs aren't going away. They're just becoming more and more of a standard when you're actually purchasing either a home, a condo, or a townhome. So now what we're seeing is a lot of transactions aren't going through because there are issues with something in the CC&Rs or how the house was set up. This can be avoided by getting that information when you take the listing or, the seller's putting the house for sale. Get that information ahead of time to see if there's any issues. For instance, there was an example of a builder had built a whole bunch of homes. This one street could not have pools built on it because there was pipes underneath. Well, the person buying the property wanted to buy a pool. When they saw the HOA documents, they saw that particular street couldn't have it, and it was right before it was supposed to close, and the deal fell through. Had they had that paperwork ahead of time, that could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm.
So that you just want to make sure you have all the paperwork you can. Read the notes of the prelim because, again, it's not escrow's or title's responsibility to make sure if there's something on there. Do we do it? Of course. Do we read the best of our ability? Of course. But sometimes there's things that gets missed.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're saying, can I see it? Let me see it. How do I read this? Another thing is vesting. People do not know how to vest. Title can tell you the options, but you really have to get a professional attorney to be able to go over that for you because in different times of your life, it's going to change depending on what your circumstances are.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's all, very interesting stuff to hear about in terms of some of the processes you got to watch out for. I know personally I've had situations where looking at a home, there's railroad tracks that you didn't know were there. There's chemicals in the ground that they disclose, and these are all things that, escrow can take care of. How do our listeners get in touch with, tell us about your business exactly and introduce our listeners to that. Mm-hmm.
We're located in Arcadia, actually on Huntington Drive. Really, really great location. It's actually right near one of the boards, the real estate boards, the Arcadia board. And the best way to reach us is to go on Facebook. I mean, social media, of course, is the way we utilize everything. You can actually go on Olympus Escrow and like our page, and you can see all the educational events. You can also email me anytime at Janine@olympusescrow.com with any questions. And even if you are not doing an escrow with us and you feel like something's wrong or you need information, have them call us. We're here for advice whenever they need us. You do not have to be doing business with us to be able to get the information and come to the educational events. And if it's too far, we can always put you in touch with somewhere else where maybe you can get the information.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, Janine, in shedding some light on this very critical step in the purchase and sale of real estate and businesses, shedding some light on what you need to watch out for. Again, Olympus Escrow, find them on Facebook, email Janine if you need to. I can tell you firsthand, they've got a real big focus on education and awareness, which is exactly in alignment with our show. So it was great to chat with you, Janine. I hope you have a great rest of the weekend.
Oh, thank you again, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Okay. So at this point, we're going to go to break again, and when we come back, I just got a question through email that I'm going to address over the air. But let's go to our sponsors real quick. Again, if you have questions too, the lines are open, 888-909-1050. You're listening to KCAA Radio 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
Do you have $10,000 or more in outstanding federal student loans? You may qualify to have your entire student loan forgiven with one free call. That's right. If you're a teacher, police officer, firefighter, or work for a nonprofit, you may qualify for new federal programs to have your entire student loan forgiven. Graduate Service Center wants to give you free information on all the programs that can help. The sooner you call, the faster you can get relief. Get the maximum loan forgiveness, loan reduction, or consolidation available. Plus, find out in the first free call what you qualify for. A loan forgiveness specialist is standing by to answer all of your questions for free. Stop worrying about student loan payments. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, this information could change your life. Call 800-315-9956. 800-315-9956. Wipe out your federal student loan debt. Find out how. Call 800-315-9956. 800-315-9956.
Okay. We're back from that word from our sponsors. And I got an email question from Sharon, and I don't know where Sharon is writing from, but she writes this. I just heard you talking about fees that I'm paying in my investment accounts. What types of fees do you charge? That's a very good question. And what I can tell you is, in general, advisors will charge fees and make money in several different ways. The first is through commissions on different investments that they're recommending to you. So, for example, when I started the show, I talked about some of those. In addition, you can be charged what are called planning fees, which are fees like you would write to a CPA for doing your taxes. So what's my model? Well, I think you also have to consider the services you're getting. The model I use, I say this to clients all the time, it's the In-N-Out burger model. I'm a fan of In-N-Out. As many of you have had In-N-Out. There's a line out the door for In-N-Out, and the burgers are very good, in my opinion. They're also reasonably costs. I think they could probably charge more for their burgers because they have that much demand. But they choose not to, and they've got a reasonable compensation. They make plenty of money. It's great quality, very clean, and I try to emulate that model. Of course, as a business, any business you work with, you want to make sure that they're profitable, that they're solvent. Especially in financial services, some companies, the turnover can be high. Even at your local bank, you could see people changing in and out of their positions all the time. You want to make sure that the businesses that you're doing that you're working with are profitable and doing well. So I do believe fees are important, but with this model that I use, I keep fees very reasonable. At the same time, I'm very proactive. So many of my clients out there know every 3 months I'm going to email and try to sit down with you over the telephone on a conference call or meet you in person just to catch up, to keep you up to speed on the latest news, to check in on your portfolios and see how those are going. I do charge sometimes standalone planning fees, but mainly if you're selling a business. I try to avoid that. On the personal side, I do analysis and education and look at someone's situation all comprehensively without a fee. And the reason is I'd like you to become a long-term client of mine. I'd like you to implement the solutions we're recommending. And if you do that with me, I'm already getting compensated. I don't need to also get compensated by a fee on top of that. So if you notice at the end of every show, I say everything we discuss is confidential. And I don't charge anything until I know you're going to become a client. So that's my model. Other advisors are different. Sometimes you're hiring a team of advisors. Sometimes somebody's in charge of servicing the clients. Some are in charge of handling the back office. Some are in charge of managing relationships. It can really vary from practice to practice. But again, you should be aware. And I mentioned earlier in the show, there's a window that the government gives advisors a chance to charge, 0 to 2%. Well, that's a big range. Again, a 1% difference makes over a 35-year period, saving $1,000 a month. That's a $182,000 difference. Okay? That's like retiring and buying a nice Porsche, like a really nice one, versus not. And you have to wake up to exactly what you're paying for. If you're paying a fee to a financial planner annually, make sure that the advice that you're getting is up to speed, that they're not using a template, that they're not just plugging your information and giving you some generic advice. And then, by the way, you're going to have to pay commissions on top of that. Because once you get the advice, you have to implement it. There's no way to do it on your own. You have to go to a bank. You have to go to an investment company or an insurance company. Someone's got to get paid. And this can all be a beautiful marriage of fees and service. It can be great. And you know this because when you talk to someone who's got a great advisor, they're excited. They like their person. This is great. At the same time, you also meet the exact opposite. I have some gal or guy, I don't know why I'm paying this much. I have my money at an old 401k. They don't even call me. I don't even know who the guy is that's on my statement. There's a name, by the way, on all your statements. In one corner, you'll see the name of somebody. That person is getting compensated from you. So, Sharon, to answer your question, I follow a model where very reasonably priced, but at the same time, proactive service every 3 months. And I do a comprehensive analysis and plan for each client in advance, before I know even they'll become a client. I do this to earn the trust and business of everyone I meet. Okay. We end every show with the highlight of a great organization in our community, in our Give More to Give More segment. Why? Because I don't think you can get more without giving more. And I truly believe this, and that's why we dedicate the last segment of our show to a nonprofit. I want to welcome two guests to the show this morning, Michael McCain and Ashley Williams, who both co-founded Schoolmunication, Inc. Their website is schoolmunication.com. This organization is responsible for replacing outdated bulletin boards with beautiful, more technologically pleasing LCD monitors in the hallways of schools across Los Angeles. They raise funds from donors. They allocate those funds to acquire the necessary resources to provide more efficient and exciting academic experience for the youth and the school staff members. Obviously, school budgets have been cut. Ashley was born and raised in Los Angeles and is a true product of what we would know as inner city schools. And after going back to visit many of her alma maters in LA, she realized just how much education budgets have been cut. We've heard about this in the news, but this is an organization that's involved in getting the right type of resources to them. So, Michael and Ashley, good morning. Welcome to the Financial Wake Up Show.
Good morning. Thanks for having us, Daniel.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to get a chance to know your organization a little bit more. Can you share with the listeners what the true mission of Schoolmunication is?
Sure. Our mission is basically to bridge the gap between technology and academics for the inner city youth. There are a lot of children who don't necessarily have exposure to technology, although a lot of resources for academics have been updated to go through technological sources such as iPads and cell phones and tablets, things of that nature. We saw that with the one-to-one program. So we just want to make sure the kids in the inner city are one step closer to using those resources and allocating them appropriately.
Yes, and I can say I've seen in different education organizations, some kids have access to like tremendous amounts, and then others really don't have much at all, as you're mentioning. You know, you and Ashley both founded Schoolmunication. Tell us the history of your organization.
I'll let Ashley answer that question. It's pretty interesting.
Hi, I'm sorry about the noise in my background. I'm a mommy of two, and we have a busy weekend, but we are just heading out of my daughter's dance class, and I'm trying to get where there's not a lot of noise.
Sure. Well, again, if Michael maybe then you could share the history.
Yeah, I can answer that question. So Ashley and I, we were chatting about what we can do to give back to the schools in our community. And during our conversation, we took a deep dive into what was the iPad fiasco at the time. We wanted to develop ideas and paths for schools to either get iPads without district assistance or by specific community donor. So from that point, we started ideating on how we could help schools bring their technology up to date without district funds.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. So specifically, the areas that you are providing support are mainly just getting the students directly without district support technology. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ash.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that's kind of where we're headed. Just for the simple fact that a lot of the LA area schools tend to fall at the bottom of the funding list. So they don't get the funds that, the schools in other areas would receive. And it's hard for them to upgrade technology, even simple things like the internet or email. So our goal is to do it without help from the district.
Sure. Now, in what areas do you all need help? How do our listeners get involved with your cause and what you're doing for the students of Los Angeles?
Well, as any nonprofit, one of the main things is always funding. So, being able to obtain donor funds for computers or iPads or, to help upgrade the internet, things like that.
Perfect. And so the donations would go directly to purchasing this technology for the students.
Yeah, the donations, they're used to obtain the technology for the schools and also to develop programs to actually teach the kids how to use the technology. It's one thing to have it, but it's another thing to actually be able to, use it and get more out of it that way.
Sure. Now, do you have any events or fundraisers coming up that you'd like to promote? I know, Michael, that you've written a book that's going to be published in April this year. What are some of the things that you have going on?
Certainly. Well, we do have an annual electronic recycling event where people can bring old computers, antiquated televisions, and things of that nature. I have written a book. Thank you very much, Daniel, for doing that research. It's actually a book that highlights financial literacy for the youth, actually, and it's called 10 to Get In. It can be pre-ordered at 10togetin.com. But we're just trying to use every single angle that we can to just make this next generation a better generation.
That's absolutely great to hear. And a portion of the proceeds from the book will go towards school supplies in underserved communities, which is great. The annual recycling events that you mentioned, when is that and where is that?
Sure. Well, Ash? Oh, well, okay.
Sorry, I'm going in and out of mute. No. When we're actually trying to secure the same location that we used last year, which was in Hawthorne, California. It's Victory Institutional Baptist Church. They opened up their outside parking lot to us to allow us to collect all, electronics of all sizes, outdated, of course, that people want to get rid of. So we're just trying to work with them and see if we can secure the same lot and figure out a date that works best for both of us.
Perfect. In fact, I'll put that information on the show website, financialwakeupshow.com, under the Give More to Get More tab. So for all of you listeners, if you want to find out how to stay involved with School Communication, you can do that. The website, again, is schoolcommunication.com. They're on social media as well, so you can find them there. Last question for both of you. What are the more rewarding aspects of your involvement with this organization you founded?
Sure, I'll take the lead on this one. Giving back to a community that helped get us both started is definitely really rewarding. Going back and speaking to teachers that actually taught us both, and letting them know how we're actually giving back and how we're trying to enhance the environment of the schools that they're in, and that that they're actually teaching our kids. That's extremely rewarding. And And it's always nice to be able to touch the minds of children in a different way. Have them see these creative resources and actually give them the opportunity to start the next school communication, and give them the opportunity to start something else that will actually give back to their community and the world. That's really what this is about, is making the world a better place.
That's great. Ashley, how about you? What are some of the more rewarding aspects of your involvement?
I would say the same thing, just being able to go back into the community that, helped to get me where I am today. Both Michael and I have 2 degrees, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without the foundation that we originally had. And then being able to help kids kind of sort of get ahead, seeing the smiles on their faces and, things of that nature when they can, use iPads and use different technology and learn how to code and things like that, and, realizing that it is, in fact, something that they can do.
Yeah, I've heard coding I have 2 young children myself, and I've heard coding is a big subject area for people to pick up early, so that's great to hear. I've really enjoyed having you both on this morning, sharing a little bit about school communication and the great cause that you're building. So I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope you both have a good holiday weekend.
Certainly. Thank you. You too, Daniel. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you very much. And same to you.
Perfect. Okay. So it's the end of another episode. I will encourage you to, if you have any doubt, reach out, call me, talk to me, ask questions. If you want to reach me off the air, the phone number 8507-WAKE-UP. That's 8507-WAKE-UP. I answer that phone. If I don't answer, I'll get back to you within the day, of course. And the website, financialwakeupshow.com. It's got an information tab. It's got a section for each of the different client groups that we help. Really good stuff on there. Of course, the Give More to Get More tab with all of our featured business partners and community organizations. You can email me at daniel@financialwakeupshow.com. And then, of course, Facebook and Twitter as well at TFWS. As I talked about before, everything we discussed, complimentary, confidential. We talked a lot about fees today. There's no understanding of fees until I know that I can help. So really, there's not much to lose. If you want more education, this is a community to help bring forth the awareness around the things we have going on in your financial life, in your growth of wealth, and of course, long-term protecting it. If you ever miss a show, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, search under the Financial Wake Up Show with Daniel Choi. The links are on the website as well. And as I end the discussion around this thing with fees, I do really want to emphasize how important it is to understand where your money is going. I have met clients who, and by the way, most of the wealthiest clients I meet are very, very conscious of where every dollar goes. People who achieve wealth, it's not a quick, lottery ticket or they got lucky. It's smart decisions over time. I have met multimillionaires who clip coupons, who look for deals, who are very wise with every decision they make. And that's the true key to financial success. It's little things over time. It's very similar to going to work out or lose weight. You can't just lose weight really quickly. It's a habit. It's a series of steps, dedication, working toward, and it's the same thing with your money. And a big piece of this is your fees that you're paying. It's not just throwing money in a bucket and hoping everything's going to work out. It's an awareness to those fees, to what you're paying. And what a pity it is. If you're working as hard as you are, trying to cut budget here, trying to not pay for this here so you can save money, turn around and pay the fees on it. It's like, again, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And that's really, really inefficient. So I encourage you to wake up, become aware. I hope you enjoy this holiday weekend. Until next week, I wish you health, wealth, and prosperity. You've been listening to the Financial Wake Up Show with Daniel Choi on KCA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Daniel Choi, Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor and Certified Exit Planner, is a registered representative financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC. Securities products and advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA, SIPC, financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, PAS, is an indirect, wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Westpac Wealth Partners is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. California Insurance License Number OD40390. This radio broadcast is for informational purposes only. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or Westpac. Opinions stated are their own and not necessarily those of PAS, Guardian, or Westpac. 2016-30361 expires 10/18.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
KCAA would like to announce that San Bernardino Valley College is hosting Tacos and Taxes. That's right, from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m., get help filing your taxes for free. If you made $55,000 or less in 2016, you are more than welcome to attend. To make your appointment, call 909-347-1255. That number again is 909-347-1255, or log on to valleycollege.edu.com. That's valleycollege.edu.
Oh, no. Out of toner. Off to the store to buy another expensive cartridge.
Hello, Dave. It's your printer.
What? Hey, I just want to go out and buy some toner.
Dave, I can't let you do that.
Wait a minute. You're my printer. Printers can't talk.
Why are you buying expensive toner, Dave?
I buy it at the office supply store.
Dave, your company expects you to save them money.
How can I do that?
By going to the source, Dave. When you need toner, you have to go to the source. DiscountOfficeSource.com.
DiscountOfficeSource.com. Here it is. You're right. Unbeatable prices. Fast and free delivery.
Now, Dave, order all your ink and toner supplies from DiscountOfficeSource.com and start saving money.
Unbeatable prices with fast and free delivery.
For all your ink and toner supplies, make sure you go to the source, DiscountOfficeSource.com, and start saving money.
If your home has hard water, then it's likely that limescale is clogging your pipes, damaging your appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars each year. You can eliminate limescale in the entire house with HydroCare products available at Wave Home Solutions. Easy and efficient with no maintenance, no salts, no chemicals, and no coils. And you can buy with confidence from Wave Home Solutions. Performance guaranteed. Just go to bestwater411.com. That's bestwater411.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
What have I learned so far? Well, I've learned there's no one right path for everyone. I've learned that without my high school diploma, I could only do so much. My options were limited, very limited. I found a free personalized learning program with Learn for Life that has a flexible schedule so I can keep my job while earning my high school diploma. I found a new career with training opportunities that would jumpstart my future. What have I learned so far? I've learned that I could change my life.
Are you 14 to 19 years old and looking for a free high school diploma program with flexible meeting times? This program allows you to keep your job or important family responsibilities while earning your high school diploma. If you've fallen behind on credits or dropped out of school completely, get back on track with free tutoring, a caring faculty, and one-on-one attention. For more information on how to reach your graduation goal, visit learnforlife.org. That's LEARN, the number 4, LIFE.org. Or enroll today by calling 877-360-LEARN. That's 877-360-LEARN.
KCAA, where every day is a great day.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, staff, management, or advertisers.
Coming to you on stations coast to coast, it's the Making It Radio Show with your hosts, self-made millionaires Tommy Runfola and Todd Williams. Tommy Runfola, founder and president of one of America's top technology consumer products and media companies, author, investor, and National Entrepreneur of the Year nominee. Tommy has worked with 5 U.S. presidents and vice presidents. Todd Williams, founder and CEO of Inc. Magazine's 2013 fastest growing food and beverage companies in America, a former NBC TV personality and Harvard Business alumnus. Making It is the source for success stories and in the trenches information that outlines a roadmap to the American dream. And now, here's Tommy and Todd.
Here we are today, Todd, and we're making it.
That's right.
And, you know, Todd, I never get tired of hearing that opening, and we've done a few things, haven't we?
Yes, we've come a long way.
Built some companies, made a few dollars.
Yeah.
It's been a good life so far.
Yeah. Hasn't come easy, but, you know,